Hey guys, it's Dinohunter here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about how red-eared sliders took over. Let's go. First we need to see what are red-eared sliders. Red-eared sliders are a species of terrapin. This means that they are an aquatic or semi-aquatic turtle. They have a special gland found by the eye that excretes salt, and these terrapins are native to the southeast of the United States. What habitat do they like? This will be important for later. Being reptiles, these turtles need a warm climate. Obviously, they need that warm climate to make sure that they don't freeze because they can't regulate their own body temperature. They live in areas with a lot of warm water as they are semi-aquatic, and this water also needs to be still water, so ponds, swamps, lakes, and streams that have a slow flow of water are ideal for the terrapins. Now let's talk about terrapins as pets. Red-eared sliders are the most commonly kept reptiles as pets. This is because they are ridiculously cheap, are tiny as babies, and are cute to many people. This low price leads a lot of people to get them as an impulse buy. A lot of rescue shelters will even sell these terrapins for free because they just have so many that are surrendered to them. Now let's see why they make terrible pets. Although they start off very small, they get a lot bigger in a short amount of time, growing to be around 15 to 20 centimeters. That's 6 to 8 inches in length. But some can be bigger. This size means that you need a big enclosure on top of the basic reptile needs. That's a basking light, etc. This enclosure is complicated though. Turtles typically need a very big enclosure for their size. This is because they need a lot of room to swim around. But because these turtles are only semi-aquatic and not fully aquatic, they also need a relatively big land area. This is already too much for most people that have a red-eared slider that are not experts. There is one more thing though. But before we look at that one more thing, on the bottom right you can see a very good example of a red-eared slider habitat. Anyone that has had experience keeping aquatic or semi-aquatic animals knows that keeping animals that need a large amount of water are harder to maintain than 99% of land-dwelling animals of the same size. This is because of a few things. You need very advanced filters, as turtles especially. Let's replace the dots with defecate a lot. You need to manage the nitrate levels, you need to manage the pH levels, you need to do water changes very often, and you need to check the water temperature, as well as much more. And let's see why most people don't do this. Most people buy these terrapins as an impulse buy because they are cheap. They don't realize the huge costs of filters or an enclosure. Because of this, many people's terrapins are not properly cared for. This leads to their health deteriorating and these animals crashing. Now we see a logical, in inverted commas, decision. Most people get very sad after seeing their turtles' health decline. This leads to many people releasing these terrapins into the wild. They think that their turtles will be able to survive in ponds with many fish. Unfortunately, this might be too true. And this brings us to the invasion. So many people release those terrapins into the wild that there have been many invasive populations established. The red-eared sliders have invaded the Caribbean, Canada, Australia, Europe, South Africa, Bahrain, Guam, as well as Russia and other parts of Asia like India. There's probably many more places that they have invaded that we just haven't found yet. And now let's see the problems that this caused. And red-eared sliders caused many problems for the native species. They transmitted diseases to the local animals, they outcompeted other turtles for food, breeding ground, nesting zones, basking spots, and hiding spots. This is because the terrapins were bigger, and this allowed them to dominate the other species. Let's take a look at the Australian invasion in detail. We have already seen how detrimental these turtles can be to the environment. However, there is one more threat that these turtles pose. Red-eared sliders eat both plants and animals. This means that the local wildlife and plant population will be decimated by these terrapins. These turtles caused the government to pay almost 1 million Australian dollars to try and eradicate them. This is because these animals don't only pass diseases on to other turtles, but to humans as well. Salmonella can be passed from turtles to humans if humans drink water that turtles contaminate. While it is possible to get salmonella from a terrapin, it is not guaranteed. If you live in a place where these turtles can be found, you will almost certainly not have to worry about these animals. Please don't kill them. That is probably the worst thing you can do. These animals should be respected and admired just as much as any other animal. Killing one of these turtles is not what this video is meant to make you do. So because of that, let's take a look at some interesting things about these awesome animals. First is brumation, and brumation is basically hibernation, but for ectotherms. Ectotherms are animals that can't regulate their own body temperature. Reptiles often wake up to drink water, but other than that, they go into a sort of sleep. They slow their heart rate and breathing down, and they don't need to eat. Red-eared sliders usually brumate around October, when the temperature goes below 10 degrees Celsius. That's 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They often brumate underwater, so they will occasionally have to come up for air. Now we can look at the sexual dimorphism, and this is basically just the difference between males and females of a species. Males are smaller than females. Males' carapaces, the carapace is the top of the shell, grows to about 10 centimeters, that's 3.9 inches, in diameter. Females measure 15 centimeters, that's 5.9 inches. Males also have much larger front claws. You can see on the right, there's a picture of a male claw, and on the left you can see female's claw. There's a pretty big difference. Then is the name, and the red-eared slider gets its name from two things. The red-eared part comes from the small red stripe around its ear, which you can see quite nicely in the picture below, and the slider part comes from when they are in danger, they quickly slide off the rock or log that they are basking on. Hence, slider. Pretty cool name. Next, let's talk about the shell. The plastron is the bottom of the shell. It often has oval-like markings. The carapace is the top. It is a flattened oval shape with many scutes. Scutes are hard scales. The carapace changes shape depending on the age of the turtle. Below you can see a skeleton of a turtle. This is not a red-eared slider. This is another kind of turtle and probably a tortoise. At the top you can see the carapace, and at the bottom you can see the plastron. Contrary to popular belief, turtle spines curve up and run along the shell. This isn't just limited to terrapins. It is all turtles. Because of this, turtles can feel when you touch their shells. It is also not possible to remove the shell from a turtle without killing it. That is because of the spine. I mean, an animal without a spine probably isn't going to do that well, is it? Next is their limbs. Red-eared sliders have tails. Males have longer tails than females. They also have webbed feet, which you can see quite nicely in the picture, and that assists them in swimming. These turtles have claws on all 4 feet, but they most likely don't use these claws to harm prey. That is what the beak is used for. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!